Has someone ever done something for you that they did not have to do, but it made a huge impact in your life? Has anyone done something for you that they didn't have to do, but it made a huge impact in your life? Maybe a neighbor mowed your lawn when you were sick. Or maybe a friend showed up with dinner when you didn't even ask because they knew you were going through something. Or maybe they just sat with you when you were having a hard time and they just listened. They didn't try to fix anything. They just listened. They just showed up. There's something powerful about being served in a way that's unexpected. There's something powerful that's being served in a way that's sincere, right? Where there's no strings attached. They just came because they knew you needed something. It catches us off guard a little bit. It disarms us. It touches something deep into our soul. Well, today we're going to be continuing a series called Love Your Neighbor. It's a super practical series. It's a way that we want to share our faith by building relationships and by loving people really, really well. Remember, if you're a part of a neighborhood and someone from Faith Chapel is part of your neighborhood, your neighbors should say that you are the best neighbor. Your neighbors should say that they live in the best neighborhood because you are their neighbor. If you are a coworker with someone and they're lucky enough to be a coworker with you because you go to Faith Chapel, they should say, I have the best job. If your little league team, if your kid's little league team is the worst team in the league, but they are on your kid's team, they should say, I am on the best team because man, are they good neighbors. And so that's what we're looking for here. And so what I want to remember is that what we've done is we've chosen that we want to bless people. And so we're using the word bless as a acrostic. It helps us to remember how we are to love our neighbors. We're to love them where we work and where we live and where we play. And here's what we said we were going to do. One, we are going to begin with prayer. We're going to begin with prayer. And so we asked you to write down 3 to 5 people that you already know. You don't even have to find new people and just start praying for them. See how God shows up in that. See how God, if God brings someone to mind that you should really go do something for, or you should go have a meal with, or you should be listening to, or you should be telling your story to. See if God brings someone new into your life. See if the person that you've been praying for, see if they come and ask you a question. Just see what God would do if you will begin with prayer. Second, we want to listen. And when people talk, we want to listen to what they're saying without kind of thinking about what we want to say back to them. Just listen to people. And last week we talked about just sharing a meal and how powerful it is to share a meal with someone, to invite them into your home or to invite them out to eat or to coffee and just share a meal, getting to know somebody. And today we're going to be looking at how we serve people. And the next week we'll be looking about telling our story, telling people about the hope that we have. And so today we're looking at what it looks like to really serve people. And this is the big idea. If we want to bless the people around us, we have to be willing to serve them like Jesus served them. So today we're going to be looking at a moment in Scripture where Jesus, the Son of God, is going to take the lowest position in the room. And how at that moment, it still speaks to us today. So if you're wondering how you are to serve people, how you're going to love people like Jesus did, if you're wondering what it looks like to serve in a very meaningful way, today is the day, right? You're going to get it today. And so here you are. If you have a Bible, turn to John 13. We're going to begin in verse 1. And what we're going to see is that serving isn't about grand gestures, right? It isn't about putting the attention on myself and making things, really big and grand and looking really good. But it's about everyday acts of love that will really reflect the heart of Jesus. Everyday things that any one of us can do. So let's dive in verse 1. Before the Passover festival, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. All right, before we kind of get into what Jesus actually does, how he is actually going to serve his disciples, I want you to see his motive. Jesus is going to serve out of love. Look at the end of verse 1. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. That's very important here. Jesus was so motivated by love that even though he knew it was his last day on this planet, his last day before crucifixion, I guess he's going to come back to life, but his last day before crucifixion, his last day before Judas is going to betray him, his last day before crucifixion is coming, before a painful death, he loved them to the end, including Judas, right? The very one who betrays him, he loves Judas to the end. Because at the core of all that Jesus did, at the center of it all, is a love for people, a love for you and me. My friend and pastor, Steve Besner, once wrote on Twitter, I had to go back and look it up. It's stuck with me, but I was like, when did he actually do this? In 2014, so he did this 11 years ago. And for 11 years, this phrase has stuck with me. And this is what he said: sometimes I joke about what I'd do if I had one day to live. Eat junk, go crazy, etc. And today it hit me. Jesus knew, and he washed feet. This is who Jesus is. This is Jesus. He's motivated by love. Keep reading with me. Now, when it was time for supper, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him. Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, and he had come from God, and that he was going back to God. So he got up from supper, laid aside his outer clothing, took a towel, tied it around himself. Next, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and dry them with the towel tied around him. Watch this, guys. Jesus knew exactly who he was. Jesus knew that the Father had given him everything into his hands, right? That's what the passage said. Jesus knew that. Jesus knew that he had come from God. Jesus knew that he was going back to God. Yet in this instance, Jesus would trade his crown for an apron, and he served. That service is motivated by love. And church, our motives matter, right? We've been spending the last few weeks talking about how we are to love our neighbors, how we're to be a blessing to them, how we might know and love Jesus. We've been talking about living a life of love and blessing. We've been told to begin with prayer, to pray for our friends, to listen to them, to eat with them. And guys, all three of these, to pray, to eat, to listen, these are great ways to serve your neighbor, to serve those that are closest to you. We want them to know Jesus, but we still have to check our motives because people are not projects, right? They're neighbors to be loved. They're friends to be made. It's love that draws people to Jesus. It's not our well thought out strategies and our plans that draw people to Jesus. It's love. And so I don't know if you've ever been invited to a party, right? Or maybe you're invited to someone's house for dinner and you get there only to find out that they want to sell you something. Or they want to pitch their investment opportunity to you. Right? Those things can get very uncomfortable very quickly. But if you're trying to pull like a bait and switch on your friends, on your neighbors, they're going to sniff that out in a second. And so we're not trying to bait our neighbors into following Jesus with our friendship. The reality is that as charming as I think that I am, or as valuable as I think my friendship is, it's really not. If you know me long enough, you know my friendship is not that valuable. I wish it was. It's just not. And things get tricky here because our ultimate motive for doing everything that we do is that people would know Jesus, right? Our little slogan here at Faith Chapel is that we want to point people to Jesus. These are our motives. This is important that we do this. There's nothing more important than that. However, if we're really going to love our neighbor, if we're going to love them as ourselves, we will be their friend. We will serve them. We will love them, regardless of whether or not they have any interest in Jesus. Because that's what Jesus did. When he's washing the disciples' feet, he doesn't skip Judas. He washes his feet. He knows betrayal is coming. He knows tonight is the night. He knows I'm going to be arrested. He knows I'm going to be beaten. He knows I'm going before the courts. He knows I'm going to the cross. And he doesn't skip Judas. He washes his feet. He loves him anyway. Our motive is Jesus and his gospel. That is our motive, but it is clothed in friendship. It's not masked in friendship, right? It's not a mask. We're not faking it. It's clothed in friendship. And then just as a side note, if today you're here and you're like, well, I feel more like Judas than I do like the rest of these guys. Maybe you think you don't deserve the love of Jesus. Jesus loves you. If Jesus would wash Judas's feet, he would serve you, he would care for you, he would die for you. So it's not too late, right? It's not too late. It's never too late. Give your life to Jesus. We want to walk you through that. We want to talk to you about that. But here's what I want you to see, and I want you to take home with you. Jesus modeled servanthood. Washing feet wasn't just a thing he did, right? He does it with a purpose. He does it to teach us how to serve. I want you to skip down to verse 12. You might remember before verse 12, Peter's like, no, Jesus, you can't wash my feet. No way. And Jesus says, hey, Peter, be quiet. I'm going to wash your feet, right? And then we get to verse 12, and it says, when Jesus had washed their feet, he put on his outer clothing, he reclined again, and he said to them, do you know what I have done for you? You call me teacher, you call me Lord, and you're speaking rightly, since that is what I am. So if your Lord and teacher has washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you this as an example, that you should do just as I have done for you. Truly I tell you, a servant is not greater than his master, and a messenger is not greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. And church, this is something important, I think, that we need to note, that sometimes we think that we are better than others. Sometimes we think that we're above helping with a task. Here's the real truth here. Jesus is absolutely better than everyone, right? He was absolutely better than everybody in that room. He was above them all. And yet he does not act as if he is above anyone or above any task. And the job of washing feet, guys, that was a lowly task. Just understand the magnitude of what's happening here. Jesus, he's God in the flesh. He's the maker. He's the sustainer of everything. He's the King of kings. He's the Lord of lords. There's no one higher. No one has more power. And he's washing feet. And so, even if you were in that room and you didn't fully grasp who Jesus was, you didn't fully grasp that he's the King of kings and the Lord of lords, you still would have known him as a highly respected teacher, as a rabbi. And in the ancient world, washing feet It was a routine practice. It was something people would do. It's something that would happen before you shared a meal together. But it was a job for the lowest ranking person in the house. It wasn't a job for the teacher, for the rabbi, for the King of Kings, for the Lord of Lords. It was a job for the lowest ranking person in the house, usually a servant. And it was a gross job. I'm not a feet person, guys. We wear socks and shoes, and I still don't want to touch your feet, okay? I don't want to look at them. I don't want anything to do with it. But in this time, it's a little different. The feet would have been the two dirtiest areas of the body. I would just kind of imagine, right? No nail clippers, no pedicures, no socks, no shoes. A culture where, like, even your sandals maybe wouldn't have been worn, but if they were, I mean, they're just out there. There's animals everywhere. It's almost like impossible to avoid stepping into the stuff. And your feet would be truly disgusting. Any fans of The Office? Right? It's just stupid. I'm sorry. Do you remember when Dwight is showing his house and his property for Andy and Angela's wedding? And everywhere Andy walks, he just steps into stuff. Even in the house, like it's just everywhere because there's animals everywhere. Like this is what it's like. There's just stuff everywhere. And so for a meal like this, Jesus and his friends, they don't sit in chairs like we sit in. There'd be a low table. They're going to recline. Their feet are going to be out. And for Jesus and his friends would have been out reclining on the floor. All those gross, gnarly feet would have been within inches of your face. And then no one is there to wash them. So Jesus does it. And so what I want you to see is this. If Jesus, our Savior, wasn't above serving, neither should we. Serving isn't about position. It's about posture. How are we humbling ourselves to serve someone else? One of the most powerful ways to bless others is by serving them with love and with humility. Now, sometimes Jesus doesn't make things as clear as I would hope he did, right? Sometimes he says something and it's kind of real abstract and you don't quite know what's going on. Sometimes the Bible isn't as clear as you hope it would be, but this is not the case, right? This is not one of those times. In his last act of service, in his last act, what he does the most important thing before except for the cross. He's going to make sure that his disciples, he's going to make sure that all of us know exactly why he washed those dirty feet. Look again at verses 14 through 17. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do just as I have done for you. Truly, I tell you, a servant is not greater than his master, and a messenger is not greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. The message is clear. Do what I do. Serve others. And I think it's worth pointing out as well that it's not always easy. And guys, that was just gross. But I want you to look at something else, though. I want you to, if you want, you can turn there. It'll be on the screens, though. But if you go back to Luke chapter 9. In Luke chapter 9, verse 1, it says, summoning the 12, he gave them power and authority over the demons and to heal diseases. Then he sent them to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. And then if you skip down to verse 6, it says, so they went out, they traveled from village to village, proclaiming the good news, healing everyone. All right, so back in Luke 9, Jesus gives them the power and authority to simply just to heal people with a simple touch or maybe a simple word. Hey, you're healed, and they would just be healed. Or a little touch, oh, you're healed. It's pretty cool, right? The same stuff that Jesus did, he gave them the opportunity to do, and it was easy for them. How do I know it's easy? There's actually another passage where they're trying to get some demons out of a guy, and it doesn't work, and Jesus says, well, guys, this demon can only come out by prayer and fasting. And so what had happened is these guys were going around and they were like, you're healed, you're healed, you're healed, hey, you're healed. And it was easy for them because they've been given the power and authority to do so, but they were kind of doing it in their own power and authority that Jesus had given them versus praying for them and giving them and fasting over those things. And so what they were doing was kind of effortless as they were sharing the gospel with those people. And that's great because God had given the authority and the power to do so. But look at this. I'm going to ask you a question. Tell me, would you rather have the power and authority to cast out demons and to heal the sick or wash feet? Which one would you rather do? Right, one of them's a big grand gesture, one of them's easy, one of them's just a word or a simple touch, and one of them's getting down and dirty. Which one do you want? I'll tell you what I want. I want the power, right? I want the power to heal the sick. I want the power to cast out demons. I do not want to get into the mess, given the choice. Instead, what Jesus does is he rejects this. He says, do what's hard. Do what's gross. Do what's inconvenient. Because sometimes that's what serving looks like. Now, sometimes serving is easy, okay? It's okay that if you are, if you have a skill and somebody needs help with something and your skill can help them with that and it's super easy for you, that's still serving and that's okay. The apostles did it, right? With the healing that they did. That is fine. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you get to serve out of your area of expertise. It's okay. But sometimes it stretches you. And regardless, we are called to serve. And so Jesus not only shows us how to do it, but then he also tells us that if you will do this, if you will do the hard thing, if you will get into the mess, you will be blessed. So if you're looking for blessing, serve. Serve your neighbor willingly, in love. Serve your coworker willingly, in love. Serve in kids ministry willingly, in love. Guys, it's a blessing to serve in our kids ministry. We need people there specifically for our older kids right now, and if you want my personal opinion, that's the easiest group. That's the only group that I serve with. Okay, maybe I'm a little selfish, but I don't want to do babies and preschoolers and kindergartens and all that kind of stuff. I serve with the older kids, right? That's the only group that I will do, and it's the easy one, and it's the one we have space in. So if you're looking for something, that's a great spot. Dudes, I feel like it's even easier for us than it is for the ladies, because they're just, I don't know if they're scared of us or what, but they just listen. People often need, though, just to see the love of Jesus before they hear about him. Right? We serve because serving opens the door to the gospel. Do you know what Jesus did after washing the disciples' feet? He shares the gospel with them by giving them the Lord's Supper. He shares the gospel with them through the act of communion. Guys, we serve because we love, and it opens the door to the gospel. People often need to see the love of Jesus before they will ever hear about it. And here's the truth. Small acts of service, just bringing a meal to someone, helping a neighbor, offering a listening ear, they create trust in you. They create trust. They open hearts to Jesus. You might remember what we said last week. People are peeking into your life. You may not think so, you may not know it, but people peek into your life. And when they do, we want to help them see Jesus through serving. But serving requires intentionality. We don't just fall into serving. It's not just, oh, wow, I just served someone. I can't believe that happened. No, it requires intentionality. We don't accidentally serve someone. Jesus would remove his metaphorical crown and put on a literal apron. And sometimes we need to remove our pride. We need to remove our sense of self-worth, our entitlement. We need to get dirty. Paul writes in Philippians 2, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look not to his own interests, but rather to the interests of others. We have to be ready and available to put ourselves aside to do something special. Even if it makes us uncomfortable. Even if it's gross. Even if we have to rearrange things for a little bit. Do you want to be blessed? Then be a blessing. Serve like Jesus. Because Jesus said, this is how we find blessing. So ask yourself, who in your life needs to experience God's love through an act of service? Right? I know some kids and some parents of kids who can use it, but who else? Right? Here's some practical steps. Start with those who are closest to you. Start with your family. Start with your coworkers. Start with your friends. Start with your neighbors. Be on the lookout for unexpected opportunities. And then just serve with no strings attached. Church, as followers of Jesus, serving isn't something we do, it is who we are. I'll say that again because I think it's good. As followers of Jesus, serving is not something that we do, it's who we are. So this week, ask God, who can I serve? And then show up. Show up with love. Pray. Pray for God to show you the opportunities that you need to serve. Choose one way to intentionally serve somebody this week. And then share it with us, right? On our connection cards, we give you that little spot where you can share cool stories with us. We want to hear about these things. Share with us. Encourage us. Encourage someone else by sharing how God has used you to bless others.